So what I wanted to do was to give you a case study, and many of the not-for-profit organisations in this room will be familiar with the issues that I'm going to outline, particularly in terms of the expectations of some funding bodies. So I'm probably mainly wearing my Zero Emissions Noosa Inc. hat tonight, and we're very clear about the outcome, or at least, we're good with the outcome. The outcome that we're looking for is zero Noosa community carbon emissions by 2026. And one of the interesting things about that goal is that it actually crosses the traditional three sectors: the economic, the social, and the environmental. So as a new organisation, we were formed in June 2016, became incorporated in November 2017, now registered as a charity, so we're beginning to get the governance stuff in order. And we know we have a huge job ahead of us. So we're thinking about carbon emissions in the Noosa community. Obviously, they're the same for any community. Small and medium enterprises, looking at, for example, the Noosaville Industrial Estate, there's only about 4% of the businesses in there have solar on their rooftops, whereas it's about 35% in the residential sector. Putting solar on the rooftops is in terms of a financial investment, is a no-brainer. The payback is about 4 years, but it's not happening. A whole lot of barriers there. We're actually working with Social Deck on identifying some of those. So clearly that has economic impact for the future. Major consumers, so we've separated them from the small and medium enterprises because if you think about a Bunnings, if you think about a Unity Water, if you think about a Noosa Civic, they're a different order of magnitude. And when you approach them, yes, it's kind of on the horizon now, but we're doing the ones in the other state first. We're very impatient. We want to see some results here happening soon. Tourism, I'm on a council, Tourism Noosa, Sustainable Tourism Reference Group. And basically all they want to talk about is limits to growth and the problems of day trippers. Now to me, I have a very simple mind. Sustainable tourism is about the sustainability of the operations right now, let alone the ones in the future. So I keep sort of feeding into the process saying, hey guys, and again, it's smart business to look at energy efficiency, to look at generating your own power. This is incredibly smart business, but it's not happening. What are the barriers? How do we break through those? The two I think that may be of particular interest to many in this room that we've identified and is being recognised around Australia is the issue of the solar divide. Recognising that for rental households and for low-income households, we're beginning with the exponential take-up of solar in many households, we're beginning to see the solar haves and the solar have-nots. And that's going to get worse as battery take-up begins to grow, and the people who are left without access to solar or batteries are going to have to carry a larger part of the financial burden of the poles and wires that we've invested in over the years. Looking at the ABS stats for Noosa, these will be familiar to some in the room. We're not the sort of silvertail community that it's sometimes thought about. If you look at some of the social indicators in Noosa, in terms of gross household income, in terms of those who are in housing stress, whether from a mortgage or from rental payments, we are worse off than the Queensland and the Australian stats. And when I start breaking that down into suburbs, so I've now started looking at Tewantin, Tewantin is worse than the Noosa figures. So it's worse than Noosa, it's worse than Queensland, it's worse than Australia. So these are very serious emerging indicators that, that electricity, the cost of electricity, the ways that we can reduce those costs is something that we should be factoring in thinking about a healthy community. So I'm sure it's part of the social strategy for the Sunshine Coast Council, and if not, I'm sure it will be. And again, for those who are from Noosa Council, factor that in when you're talking about a healthy community. Community buildings also is an area to look at getting solar on those roofs. And transport. Transport's one of those really interesting ones, again, that touches social, economic, environmental. I keep trying to feed into this council the role that electric bikes can play in reducing car emissions, in reducing car costs, in providing a healthier community, and pointing to pilots in West Australia where that's occurred. Good on the Central Queensland University, they've taken up that challenge. They are doing the pilot study that I believe every council should be doing to try and avoid the capital costs on roads, to get healthier communities, to start dealing with the transport problems instead of building new roads. So as this small, emerging organisation looking for funds to start doing the stuff, the ambitious stuff that we want to do and we know we need to do, I just want to give you an example of something that will be familiar to the not-for-profits as well. So this is one funding source, and it wants to create jobs, it wants to drive economic growth, it wants to build stronger regional communities into the future. That's us. That's us, guys. We can do that for you. And focusing on renewable energy, focusing on sustainable transport is definitely a way to do that. But what do we have to do? What are the hoops we have to do? So these are the criteria, and they all sound, eminently reasonable about the economic benefit, about the social benefit, the value for money, capacity and resources to carry it out. Economic benefit gets the 15 points. Social benefit gets the 10 and the other 2 lesser points. Now, if they want me, this is what they want me to do for the economic benefit. So those are some of the criteria that they want us to provide in writing the grant application. It sounds incredibly reasonable, but for me to estimate the number of jobs, new business, production of goods and services, that improving energy efficiency in the tourism sector, getting solar PV on the roofs in the tourism sector, overcoming the barriers of body corporates and strata management, that's not an easy thing to do. And so down the bottom, they're saying, you should, in responding to this criterion, you should provide evidence to support your claims. This can include cost-benefit analysis, economic modelling, etc. Now, for a not-for-profit emerging group, these are high hurdles to jump over. And so I'm hoping that SIMNA is, listening and keen to partner and collaborate. Merit criterion 2, social benefit. So again, I think that I'd be pretty good at being able to, put some answers together on those criteria. But again, they're saying letters of support, yes, you can do that. Community consultation, yes, you can do that. Socioeconomic data. So if I want to make an argument about the importance of doing surveys and studies on how I deal with the split incentive between landlords and tenants in reducing the energy costs for those tenants, it's not an easy thing to do. And that's probably a key message that I want to get across to SIMNA, and to say, we want to come on this journey with you. Basically, help.